here has traveled around the world extensively, conducting seminars, conferences, and retreats aimed to inspire participants to live their best life deliberately. And if you were to notice, we coined or titled, I think it's a motivational or deliberate living, right? Is what we coined it tonight, right? So you're going to talk to us about deliberately living. As a personal development strategist, Patrice relished the joy of empowering her clients to take action and conquer the expanded territory God has predestined for them. Sister Gordon served as an assistant professor at the Northern Caribbean University in Jamaica, then coordinator of fundraising and special events for the South Bahamas Conference. Sister Gordon, you have traveled the world, at least the Caribbean. Look at you. Are you royalty? Congratulations. And again, she is the host of our prestigious show, WGOD Chit Chat with Auntie Patty Pat. Sister Gordon, Patrice Gordon, welcome to Come Make We Talk with Dr. Guy and Dr. Michael Wright. So Michael is going to be in and out because he's trying to get to where he needs to go. He do this every time. He's a busy man, so he's on the road doing all this. So I really appreciate the effort he takes to make this happen. So talk. So how are you? Talk to me. Give the viewing audience a little bit about yourself. You look very nice, by the way. You're very cute.
Thanks. It's been a good day. One of them busy days, but it's been a good day. A day that had a little bit of everything,
Okay.
except the exercise that I wanted to have in today. But it was a good day.
You need exercise today, Patty Pat.
No, I did not. I did not get in my walking or swimming. I swim most mornings, or let's say I play in the water most mornings.
Oh, you
Or
like the
I walk, and I did neither this morning. I've had a hectic 3 weeks, and
Mhm.
this morning I stayed in.
Okay. So you didn't go to the water today. The water is your form of exercise?
Say that again.
The water, is that a form of exercise for you?
Oh, definitely. When I go in the mornings, I do my laps. I walk
Okay.
back and forth on the beach for quite a while, so I do some walking, and then I walk in the water. And recently, I learned the technique of crawling in the water, which works some other muscles, and then I
Really?
snorkel around and enjoy the beauty of seniors in the morning. We chat and actually have worship every morning in the water. And I'm the
Nice,
youngest one out there most times.
nice,
It does
nice.
something for my ego.
Yeah, yeah, nice, nice. I remember when COVID happened, we used to do that in the water. So this is good. I'm glad for you. So Patty
Mhm.
Pat, do you mind me calling you Patty Pat, or I need to call you Sister
Not
Garden
at
or the
all. No, I don't like the sister garden. I don't. That I don't like at all.
okay. I like yeah, I kind of like Patty Pat a lot. So listen now, I was there reading your bio and I was looking at it and I know you personally, you're a personal friend. So I'm really grateful that you're here sharing with us tonight. And knowing a little bit about you and reading your bio, we titled tonight conversation "Resilience in is Deliberate Living," and I know this is something that you practice daily. We talked about exercise just a while ago, right? And how you're doing all these different moves in the water, building muscles. So my question to you, with that in mind, resilience is deliberate living. What does that mean to you?
Resilience. I guess it's a buzzword. It's a buzzword for everybody. I'll start out with talking about deliberate living, and then have
Mhm.
you tell me how you think resilience comes into that.
Okay, all
Deliberate
right.
living has become my mantra. It has become my key to life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's developed from my life and the challenges that I've had. But I like to define deliberate living as living life with your antennas up,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you are completely aware of what is happening around you, inside of you, to you, and by you, and you are conscientiously making life happen instead of making life happen to you. So you're
Mm-hmm.
living on purpose, not by default.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I get up today and it's not about what the day is going to bring me, it's about what I am going to bring today.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that I think makes a big difference in everybody's approach to life. So that life doesn't act on you, you act on life. It doesn't mean that you have absolute control over everything. But in
Mm-hmm.
my mind, I feel that the things that are brought to you, instead of you seeing yourself as the reactant, something to be acted on, you
Mm-hmm.
see yourself as being, as assuming greater control
Mm.
by putting these things together and determining how you see them.
Mm-hmm. So I'm listening to you. So you're saying, in other words, what I hear you say is that resilience could involve cultivating a mindset, right?
Yes, it
That
involves cultivating a mindset. Yes, it
Mhm.
does.
that prioritize growth, it prioritize learning, self-care. Is self-care part of resilience for you?
Oh, yes, all of that comes into it. You see, the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, all of us will live and all of us will die. All of
Mm-hmm.
us will exist under the sky. We will be impacted by the chemicals in our environment, but what we do with it is different.
Mm-hmm.
What we decide to do with it is different. And I realize that on a personal level, if I make those choices every day, then
Mm-hmm.
life becomes fuller. I can I can small talk somebody on the road. I can be in the bank and I'm on the line and just waiting for the line to pass. Or
Mm-hmm.
I can see myself in a position where I am granted the opportunity of being in the line today with these people at this time and
Mm-hmm.
make use of the opportunity. It may present itself through a conversation as well as it may present itself just in observation. It may
Mm-hmm.
be that I may choose to use the time to meditate, but at the end of the day, I am doing life. I am not allowing life to do me. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that there is so much more, that I feel so much more productive. I feel so much more alive at the end of the day when I participate in life instead of allowing life to happen to me.
Hmm. You coined well. You coined well how you live on purpose, how you live in life, even by the line you stand in and talking to somebody, right? And being conscious of how you go through life. What are some of the or an experience maybe that would have challenged you living life on purpose or
Okay.
doing life? And how does resilience play a part in that as well?
Deliberate living was birthed from a low time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the time lecturing at Northern Caribbean University,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying impacting other people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
but I was also diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and the prognosis was not good. The doctor told me that I had lived with it undiagnosed for a longer period than usually results in it going into remission. And
And hold on a minute. Can you explain to the audience what's chronic fatigue syndromes?
woo, that's a whole other show. But
No, in a small little situation. Not, don't go into it a big, just to give
chronic
people
fatigue
some.
syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome is one of those lonely disorders that affect a wide cross section of individuals, and it goes
Mhm,
undiagnosed. It is characterized by chronic fatigue, as the name suggests, unrefreshed sleep, lots of pain, and it's called a syndrome because there are lots and lots of symptoms that
mhm.
come together and make it what it is. It is
Okay.
diagnosed more by way of eliminating other possibilities
Mhm,
and by the consistent recurrence of symptoms over a period of time. Some of these symptoms include, as I said, just extreme tiredness that is unrefreshed with sleep. And given your general circumstances, there is nothing that explains that. The blood work, everything that goes into exploring why you should be like this comes up without a cause. Uh, there is very often depression. There is transmandibular jaw dysfunction, which I ended up having with ticking, clicking in my jaw. And thankfully to God, I didn't have the soreness that some people had that prevented you from eating. There is cognitive fog. There is high sensitivity to high frequency sounds. There is nerve pain and nerve reactions where your skin is always crawling. And all of this doesn't happen all the time, but you go through flares and pain. Mine progressed into fibromyalgia as the doctors had expected, which accounts for a lot of pain. And one of the lonely parts of this disorder is that many doctors, and especially at that time, did not recognize it as being real and categorized it as a cop-out in the medical fraternity because they could not identify what is wrong with you. Sad to say, there are still very, very many doctors who still do that. And it is very disconcerting. It's painful when you go to a medical practitioner with your situation and you know what you're dealing with. You have tested, it's been proven, you have identified with the doctors who are accustomed to working with it, and you're settled with it, and yet you go to another doctor, they want to put you through all the rigors of testing for lupus, testing for all sorts of rheumatoid arthritis, MLS, all sorts of other stuff. And then coming back to the same position anyway, and they're often leaving you on your own. That being said, it was early in my diagnosis after having lived with it for many years and having gone undiagnosed. And it was a bittersweet experience, my diagnosis, that is, because finally somebody made me know that you're not going crazy. This thing is real. Finally, I could see in black and white all the dots that I could not connect throughout the years. Finally, I identified with a whole community of other people who experienced what I experienced, and I'm now able to make the connection between what was happening to me and what resources were out there and how I could tap into living a fuller life.
So, hold on, Auntie Patricia, because there's a whole lot, there's a whole mouthful that you just explained to the audience, right? So I get what you said, that this chronic fatigue syndrome is one that is not easily diagnosed, right? Yet and still, you are there going through these symptoms experienced in life, right? And I'm pretty sure this has been for a good while before you even get to where you get, before they diagnose it.
Yes.
So here's my question, and I'm going to let you get into that. So how in the world, Auntie Patty Paco, you know you do a whole lot for people, like you are all over the place. How, I mean, doing good things. So I'm thinking, how in the world did you find resilience in that, or being deliberate? What was that like for you?
It deliberate living was born out of that dark place because, as I inferred before, living with chronic fatigue syndrome for me, as for most other patients, it is not something that is there every day 24/7. And so you go through flares. A flare can last for anywhere between 2 weeks to 3 months, 4 months. And then you go through a period of what looks like normalcy. And during that time, I found myself trying to put all of my life into the time when my energy was up, my mind was sharper, my moods were more stable. And I found that, and what it then ended up resulting in was post exertional malaise, because then I now pushed so much into this part of my life that I ended up in a flare sooner again. And so it was
Mm,
like a seesaw situation. During that
mm,
time, I also was surrounded by lots of positive people who made me know that they were waiting on me until I could surface again. So I knew
mhm,
that I didn't have the legacy of rolling up in a ball and just passing out. My kids were young, my students, my friends, my speaking career had taken off. There were people who were depending on me, and I realized that life had to go on and it had to be beautiful. So I
mm,
decided I wasn't going to go through it and be bitter.
mhm,
I would grow through it and be better.
mhm,
And so I decided,
mhm, mhm.
while
Amazing.
discussing this thing with a friend of mine, she
Mhm,
said, Patrice, how are you going to package life? Because the options were going into a corner and making life happen, or taking both the bull by the horn and making life happen.
mhm,
And the strong thought came to me, which I know was inspired by God. You've got
mhm,
to be deliberate about how you execute your life.
mhm,
You have got to use your energy in a creative way so
mhm,
that you are not at the mercies of chronic fatigue syndrome.
mhm,
It therefore
mhm,
meant that
mhm,
when I could write, I would wrote.
mhm,
When I couldn't write,
mhm,
my mind was in high gear and I would jot down. So I would do whatever I could, not putting it off to doing what I should.
mhm,
That then made me aware of the fragility of life,
mhm,
the fact that tomorrow morning I may wake up and not be as alert as I am today.
mm,
Therefore, I have got to today savor life.
mhm,
Therefore, as simple as thing as eating a mango was
mhm,
no longer just picking it up and putting it in my mouth. It
mhm,
involved looking on the mango, being excited about the color, the shade, the shape, the
mhm,
strings or the no strings. It
mhm,
included asking myself, what is it that I like about this mango, as opposed to something else? I like the strings, and that's when I decided that the string of the mango is just one of the best things that could happen because you use one mango to floss your teeth from another mango.
and because, like, you know, I'm gonna tease you about that mango situation that
That's
you would
all
use
right. That's
mango as an analogy because I know how anybody who know you know how you like mango.
I'm
Can you
telling you.
imagine? But
I'm
listen,
telling you.
I'm hearing you. I'm not cutting you, but I'm hearing you, Auntie Patty Pat. I see where you gain strength by sheer willpower. I see where you gain strength by the support of your friends and family. I see where you gain strength by redirecting. Instead of feeling all sorry for yourself, you go, you know what? And that's what I'm getting at too, right? So maybe there were days where you go, well, listen, I'm not, but I'm not gonna be all sad and sobby, right? When those days came, right? Were you deliberate in being sad and sobby? Was that part of the process?
You know,
Was it necessary just to be?
you know what deliberate living allowed me to do is to truly live during those times and acknowledge and appreciate that it was my reality. It was my
Mm,
reality. This was not something I was buying for myself. And had a right feelings and the reality that my situation handed me. So
Mhm.
I didn't I didn't hang on to it and allow it to be an excuse, but I
Mhm.
acknowledged it as being real, and
Mhm.
therefore what I did was going to be within the context of what I could do.
Mm.
So some people will say, just get up and shake your shoulders and get going. And I realized that doing that was actually making it worse for me. So I had
Mm.
to be deliberate about how I lived with this thing. So I got
Mm.
up today and I realized I didn't have the energy. Instead of being
Mm.
angry, instead of being sorry for myself, instead of being depressed about it,
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
face the reality that today is not a high energy day. So what can I do with a low energy day? I face
Mm.
the reality that hey, you are depressed because depression is a real part and
Mhm.
parcel of what I live with. And instead
Mhm.
of beating up myself that I am depressed and I'm a strong woman and I am talking to other people about depression and how to get over it, I owned my depression because this is my reality. I got the help I needed and I walked through it because it is my reality. It's a part of my package as much as the hype side is.
Yeah. So owning where you're at.
I'm getting
That.
a bit feedback. Are you hearing a feedback?
Yeah. It's my call. There's some feedback. Okay, that's better. So owning where you're at, owning what's happening to you at the time rather than beating up yourself is part of being resilient,
It
right?
is.
Because oftentimes, and I think it's necessary, oftentimes when we're going through things you want to get to it so quickly that you don't want to take the time. And it's not that you're suffering, right? It's I think taking the time to go through it is necessary. Is where you gain the insight, is where you gain the strength so you could push forward to the next level,
Yeah.
right? And oftentimes you want to dismiss it or you want to mask it, do things to prove to the world that it's not happening, when going through it is a necessary step to get there. And this is what I'm hearing you saying, right?
Yes.
Instead of me dismissing and beating myself up, I'm just going to own it. Today I'm depressed, right?
Yes.
And if I own it, hopefully I'm going to think in my mind how I'm going to get through this depression tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, nice. So I know Michael is trying to get on here, and there's another segment that we talk about healing and health, right? So I want to ask, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's having some technical difficulties. I want to ask you from resilience, right? You did that very well. Friends, family, your strength base, your natural intuition. How did faith play a part in that?
My faith was very integral in the whole development of deliberate living. One of the things that stood out for me was the reality that I was not alone. I could not do this alone. And that is why I am able to live deliberately. For some
Mm-hmm.
persons, coming out of, for example, coming out of COVID, where a lot of people have emerged hopeless, they have emerged feeling that they are at the behest of chance and anything that can pop up. So I'm just going to live and let live. The the on the contrary, chronic fatigue syndrome handed me uncertainty. It
Mm,
heightened my reality that I was not in control. And it led me to a place of how can you live like this? And the answer came from me that I don't need to be in control if God is in control. So it allowed my faith to grow. I found myself so much more dependent on God going through this. There were times when I had major speaking appointments that I could not get out of, booked months in advance, sometimes a year, 2 years in advance. There is no telling what my physical state is going to be like. I do not have a calendar for my flare ups. So, and I can't tell the world that I can't turn up. I have to depend on God. So that flare or no flare, I am going to be able to do whatever He brings my way. And faith in God is what has brought me through that, is what has made me strong, resilient, persevering, has made me committed to the fact that I can live and I will live because
Hey,
whatever God brings me to, He is going to bring me through. I understand because of my faith that if
mhm,
I am at a point of weakness, when I
mhm,
anticipate a point of strength, it is
mhm.
because that is what He wants to use at this point. And it's really not up to me to decide how I'm going to be used.
uh, just reaffirm you one in sharing your story, and I could only imagine who is out there listening. It may not be CFFS, it might be something else that they're battling, and just hearing your story can give them a glimpse of hope, or to even release themselves from the pressures they put on themselves, right? You talk about control, giving God full control. For an unbeliever, I don't know if they understand what that looks like. So when you give God full control, what were some of the things that you did, and how did you know God was in full control?
Giving God full control in my life suggests that I put myself in a position where I can hear from Him. And I hear from God through prayer, meditation, reading His Word. I hear from God by deliberately acknowledging my environment and the ways He can talk to me through my environment. So there are things that some people will pass and not recognize as a strong message. I see a message in so many different things. I realize that God is interested and is insistent on communicating with me, and therefore I look out for the ways He communicates with me, whether it is how He adjusts my schedule, or how He allows someone to cross my path, or how He allows a book to turn up in my experience at the time when I need it, or how He allows for a conversation or someone who I never knew to enter my life at a given time. That is giving God control of my life, and not insisting on the way I want things to be done, but yielding to His will. Still presenting my preferences, still dreaming and having my wishes, but at the end of the day, acknowledging and accepting that God knows around the corner I don't, and I want His way over my way.
That you're not putting God in a box. You're allowing God to speak to you in whatever form. I also heard that you must have a personal relationship with God, so know how you communicate with God and how God communicate with you, right? In having God in control. I also heard that you even if you have your will, right? You surrender to what God will is over your own preferences, right?
Yes.
This is beautiful, and I think oftentimes I think my colleagues trying to there's a wow, Dr. Rice, there's an echo. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the problem. Oftentimes we want to be human beings and God at the same time. We want to be able to tell God what to do, how to do it. I also believe that in everything that we do, though, it's God's. It can be a testimony, a testament of God in our lives, and it also could be a situation where people see God without we actually saying it or doing it, right? So with you and with what I've been seeing, in as much as what has been going on with you, I was able, even from my own personal experience with you, I have been able to see God. I have been able to see you operate in spaces and places. I'm like, wait, was she have a problem? She have a problem? She behaving like she normal. And the funny thing about that is many people don't see what's behind the closed doors. They don't see you in the spaces when you have that moment. And I
Yes.
want to ask a question, but I could see it. I think I'm going to answer it for myself. I was going to ask how you navigate a balance, and I guess in balancing, I'm going to answer it for you, but you could fix it. I see
Mhm.
the balance in you knowing God. I see the balance in you having the support of your friends and family, and I see the balance in you owning right your limitations.
Yes. Yes, you're right. You're dead on the money. It's nicely packaged in words. It's not always as easily lived, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
always consistent. There are days
Mm-hmm.
when I am significantly more submissive than other days. And there are days when I'm kicking and screaming and wanting things to be different. But as I said, it's my mantra. It's what I come back to. It
Mm-hmm.
is what guides me and puts me back on the right path. That, hey, you've got to be deliberate about the things that matter in your life, which includes my relationship and my connection with God. I've got to be deliberate about my relationships. I just can't allow them to happen. I have to understand them. I have to work on them. I have to put in the boundaries that are necessary. I have to cultivate intimacy and vulnerability. I have to remove some things from my environment and my space that is working against what is
Mm-hmm.
meant
Mm-hmm.
for me. I can't just allow life to happen. I have to be proactive. I have to be intentional. I have to be deliberate. All the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, because I want the best possible outcome, I've got to be deliberate under the guidance of someone who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is God.
Auntie Patty Pat, how and I hear that, I hear all that you said, but how has, and you probably have mentioned it before, I think you did earlier on, you're very eloquent and you're clear in your statement. And so you jump ahead and not knowing that you're jumping ahead with the questions I have in my mind. But how has your understanding, right, of health may have shifted since that diagnosis, since whatever else that may be going on, um, dealing with, not dealing with, but knowing God, finding the balance, all of that. So, how has health? What does health look like for you now? Um, if it
Health,
has shifted at all.
health again is deliberate. For most of us, health, we think health is something that happens. We think
Mm,
health is something that is somebody else's responsibility. We
mhm,
think health lies in the hand of the Ministry of Health, of the
mm,
government, of the environmental people, of
oh,
your genes,
insurances.
your
Mhm,
genes, of
mhm,
your financial situation, and you just think that I have to accept what comes to me. Health,
mhm,
you have to own your health, and that is where deliberate living comes along. You've
mhm,
got to you've got to understand that it's what I put in that I get out. I also
mhm,
have to understand that my health is a cog in the whole person of who I am. And therefore, if my physical health is lacking, or my
mhm,
mental health is lacking, or my social health is lacking, then I will not be able to turn smoothly. I
mhm,
realize that everything impacts my health.
mhm, mhm,
My wellness is impacted by the people around me. It's
mhm,
impacted by the decisions I make about what I eat, how I
mhm,
move, whether I stretch, whether
mhm,
I invest time in clearing my mind,
mhm,
whether I
mhm,
take care of my skin.
mhm,
That all of that impacts
mhm,
who I am at the core. And I
mhm,
have a big role to play in that.
mhm. So I heard, go ahead, finish. No, finish.
I'm also a strong proponent of not Dr. Google,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
getting as much information as you can and not
Mm-hmm.
leaving your health in the hands of the practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
I believe when I step into a doctor's office that this is not about them making me better, but about
You.
us making me better, about
That's right.
me communicating to you, hearing what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, asking questions about what you're saying, telling you how I'm feeling, and owning
Mm-hmm.
the actions that will proceed from our conference. It's not about my doctor, it's about me and what we
You
can do together.
you nail it. So I'm hearing that health is holistic. It's a holistic approach
Hmm.
that includes the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the social, and all of it. You hit on something that most people don't do. They feel that they go to the doctors or the healthcare professionals, and that they have the say all, right? Whatever they say is what it is that I need to follow, or I just need to jump to it. And sometimes not knowing how important it is to ask the right questions, to
Yes.
find out, take an active part or active role in securing your health, right?
Hmm.
Okay, nicely done, nicely said. So there are segments that we go through, and there's a little video that plays and give a little animation and so forth and so on. We don't have that tonight because clearly Dr. Wright is having a bit of technical difficulties. So we'll just move right into it. Auntie Patty Pat, we're going to go through the healing segment now, and I'm gonna go yada yada yada. No, no, no. I'm not gonna do that. So right to the healing segment, we talk about health. We talk about finding a balance. We talk about health being holistic. Understanding it is your hands-on approach to your holistic health. Now, as part of the healing, did you find that you had to dismiss certain things, places, people, to maintain your mental health, people who would not even understand what you're going through, or that you have to not isolate yourself, but people, places, and things that was not going to be conducive to your health and growth? Did you feel, as part of the healing process, you had to remove yourself from certain things?
It more than having to remove myself, more importantly, I had to position myself at the helm.
Mm,
I
okay.
think I have grown up in an environment where I was always loved and catered to and taken care of and someone looking out for me and protected. And it so happened that some of the pivotal persons who played those roles in my life did not understand what I was going through. And I had to reposition myself as being in charge of this journey. I could no longer allow myself to be carried. Even though it
Mm,
was comfortable, it was what I was used to, it was a culture that I'd grown up in. I had to now not necessarily isolate these persons, but position myself, reposition me at the helm of caring for me, so that
mm,
if the journey bumped them off along the way, so it
mm,
go. You know, it's so it go. But I am taking this train through this tunnel. I Some people will fall off, by the way, because they are not deciding to come on this train, or
mm,
they came off at another stop because that is where they were going. I don't
mm,
know that I have had to put a lot of people out of my life, but I have
mhm,
recognized that because I am in charge, there's some people who have had to come off because this wasn't going where they wanted to go, you know? And because before having this mindset, I would have been uncomfortable and I would have stopped the train and I would have pleaded with them to come back on and I would have pleaded with them to come from the back seat and come to the front seat. But having positioned myself at the helm of my life, taking control of, of my journey, and focusing on where I am going. I have given myself the pleasure, the joy of allowing others to take responsibility for their own actions because I am taking responsibility for my actions. And so I am not as consumed about isolating, even though that occurs in some cases, but I find that the more proactive action has been me establishing my boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
me positioning myself as the driver, and
Mm-hmm.
then falling away, even without me having to push them out.
Mm-hmm. Auntie Patty Pat, girl, I hear you. I hear taking ownership and accountability of your own life and your own healing process.
Yeah,
But Auntie Patty Pat, a lot of people are not healed enough to know that. This is
yeah,
important. A lot of people who are going through what they're going through, whatever sickness, whatever it is, sometimes they're not in the position, okay, they don't even know that they need to do certain things. They don't know. They're not healed enough to know, apart, I'm going to take ownership of my own healing process, and that I am not going to put that on somebody to do that for me. I'm going to set the boundaries that I need for myself so I can get to this point. How did you get to that point? How did you know that this is what you need to do for yourself?
it came with growth and time,
Mm-hmm.
finding that I was having to apologize to too many people who needed to be satisfied. And I was not getting to where I needed to get to because I was spending so much time trying to decipher where other people wanted me to go. So
Mm-hmm.
it came from some deep introspection. It also
Mm-hmm.
came with finding out that I have less time ahead of me than behind me. You
And
know?
you don't have time for the foolishness, right? You just want to
Yes,
live the best
yes.
you can,
40 and
right?
50 40 and 50 has also opened my eyes up to the fact that, hey, you got limited time. You got to number your days,
You.
living with changes in health of some of my family members and friends and
Mm-hmm.
realizing again how fickle life can be. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, hey, I have got to take control. And this might be anecdotal, but
Mm-hmm.
it someone will probably pick up the direction or what the role this had in my life. I was 35 years old
Mm-hmm.
and wanted a surprise birthday party. Now you
Mm-hmm.
cannot plan. I have not found a way to plan a surprise birthday party for myself yet. I still trying to work on it. So I dropped the hint to a couple of my friends and said, boy, I wish I could get a surprise party. I wish somebody would plan a surprise party. This year I want a surprise party. And
Mm-hmm.
because I am always the one who is making these things happen for my friends, I know that if I got a hint like that, it would have been done. It's a done deal. So the
Mm-hmm.
birthday was coming and I wasn't hearing anything, and I'm saying, oh my friends are just so good. They have kept this thing under wrap. I don't pick up a hint. They've just done it so well.
Mm-hmm.
The day of the birthday came, I made no provisions for lunch, no provisions for anything because I know they got it. Honey,
Mm-hmm.
it was a surprise indeed, and not a thing happened. Nobody did a thing. And I was so put out. But then
Mm-hmm.
how do you quarrel with your friends because they don't surprise you? you know? But at that junction in my life, I said to myself, Patrice, you know what you want. You know
Right.
exactly what it is that you wanted. You know how you wanted it to happen. Why does it have to be a surprise? And from
Mm-hmm.
that day until now, every
Mm-hmm.
December 10 has
Mm-hmm.
been an occasion that my friends look forward to because
Mm-hmm.
I am deliberate, I'm intentional, I'm proactive. I plan my birthday weeks ahead. My friends and I involve everybody all over the world virtually. You know what I'm talking about because I have decided that you are not going to determine what my birthday outcome is. That is in my control. And I said it's anecdotal because it may seem, yeah, that's a birthday and da da da. But I
Mm-hmm.
have been growing incrementally, to take this into other aspects of my life. So I
Mm,
decided I can't wait forever to do this thing with you and
mm,
this way, because you have a responsibility to yourself, I have a responsibility to me, and therefore I have got to find other ways to make life happen. I've
happens for
got to
you.
be deliberate about
Mm, mm,
executing my life.
mm, Beautiful. Anybody, but you know that. So I kind of similar to you too, as well as far as the birthday thing goes. I was when I was younger, my mom didn't have birthday party for me for whatever reason, and then I went to college, and I see my college mate having birthday party for themselves or celebrating, and I said to myself, but Gail, why you can't have yourself a
Hmm.
birthday party for yourself? And every year since then, I've had my own birthday party,
Hmm.
as you know as well that I'm almost turning 50. And Auntie Patty Pat, I don't know what happened for 30. I don't know what happened 20. I don't even happened when I was a teenager. I don't even know what happened when I was in my early 40s. But the latter part of my 40th or my 40s is when the light bulb went on off in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. There's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of, listen, I'm not going to wait on people to make me happy. I'm not going to wait on people to dictate what healing looks like for me. And I think um, in your 30s and 40s, you've gone through enough of life. You've had enough experience to say, you know what? I'm making conscious choices.
Yes.
So I can be happy. I can be healthy. I can be whole. And you're right. You don't have to say to somebody, ease off, or but the changes that you make, people would deliberately slide themselves off
Yes.
without saying
Yes.
anything, doing anything, right? Because it's the growth that now you have discovered. It's the healing that has become you now. So I
Yes.
think many of the processes or the stages that we get to a particular space, the you talk about that word deliberate. The 30s and the 40s, those experiences were deliberate to get you to where you're at right
Yes.
now. And I think it's progressive, right? It's a progression over time.
It
Different
definitely
things.
is.
Yes, so forth and so on. So we shifting it. We shifting. We have 10 more minutes. I have couple more questions for you. How? How did I know you've had chit chat with Auntie Patty Pat. I know you've written a couple of books. I know that you've done several conferences around the world and in the Caribbean island, right? So are there any particular moment or milestone in your journey where you felt you had made progress or should have made more progress in your healing, despite the challenges with CFS and other things, any challenges at all? So,
Oh,
is there a mind?
definitely. Definitely. There have been myriads. There have been several, and God forbid that anybody should think that I have this life that is overflowing with joy and milk and honey. I mean, every day is a deliberate day. Every day
Mhm,
is a day that is a potential day for a flare. Every day is a day that I have to make decisions, and there are days, and every day there's some choices and decisions that I could have made that would have made it better, and I could have had a better day, but I had
mhm,
the day I had, you know? And so I don't want anybody to get the impression that I am living my ultimate optimal life every day. But
mhm,
I live every day with the recognition that I have more control than I
mhm,
often give myself credit for. I
mhm,
have had I have had times of denial about
mhm,
my situation. There
mhm,
there was a whole period of time in recent times when I was going through significant depression and even
mhm,
had anxiety and panic attacks. And as a health educator and someone
mhm,
who talks about this, I was unable to recognize it in myself,
mhm,
you know.
mhm,
And it
mhm,
wasn't until way down on the road
mhm,
that I sought help.
mhm,
I spoke to someone who whose voice I knew had more content than mine did,
Mhm. Mhm.
and got the input that I needed to change gears.
Mhm.
And subsequently, I have taken the bold step of doing something that I have resisted for years, and that is to put myself in therapy. And I
Mm.
can see the growth. I can
That's
see the growth in me. I can see the clarity. And it
mhm.
has not removed the boulders, but it has given me more acute vision to circumvent, to walk over, to deal with my reality with more grace and patience and love of myself. So
Awesome.
that is true. I've also had occasions of having very, very important assignments when I was
Mhm.
at my best, and I went out in faith, and
Mhm.
God's answer was not to give me a flawless delivery.
Mm.
That is to say, it didn't go, that is to say, I went up to do my delivery, to do my presentation, and I did have hiccups.
Mm.
But because I have dismantled the shame that I
Mhm.
once associated with living with this disorder, I am
Mhm.
able to say to my audience,
Mhm.
we're having a little glitch right here, and we're going
Mhm.
to pivot in this way.
Mhm.
And I may not always say it in that way, but I can change gears and not beat upon myself because
Mhm.
the shoes I'm wearing are real. They're not made,
Mhm.
they're not an excuse for life. And
Right.
therefore, if I have a moment of cognitive fog, just
Mhm.
putting upon myself, I whisper
Mhm.
a prayer, I go at it at another angle from another direction, and I give myself grace.
Mhm.
So it has not always been easy.
Mhm.
I have also found that living with chronic fatigue syndrome has impacted my social circles,
Mhm.
and I've had to make some decisions
Mhm.
that was not necessarily what everyone would have embraced,
Mhm.
but I had to do it because Patrice was steering.
Mhm.
You know, it's not always been easy. It's been difficult. I have
Mhm.
had one major setback that I
Mhm.
have had is in completing my dissertation. A journey that has taken me way too long and
Mhm.
has resulted in significant shame
Mm.
because this is not Patrice. Patrice is
Mhm.
the person finished. Patrice is the one at the head of the class. Patrice is the one who gets it right and the struggles that I have had,
Mhm.
shame alone prevented me from even identifying why I
Mm.
was having the challenges I was having
Mhm.
and blaming myself and being angry.
Mhm.
Am I over that? No, but I'm working
Mm.
with myself and I
Mhm.
recognize it as a part of the journey
Mhm.
and I move
Well,
on.
mhm. I'm listening, and what I hear in all of that statement that limitations are not necessarily failures. Limitations are errors or opportunities for growth,
Yes,
and
yes.
that when you see limitation, you can actually grow. I also heard that um, my progress cannot be yours. You have liberated a whole lot of people tonight. Let me tell you, because not only in my eyes, but in the eyes of many, you are looked at as a superwoman. So a lot of people are liberated tonight to know that you're doing so much, you have done so much, but yet and still, in the limitations that you presented are limitations that you offer to God, and God could work them out and make them into something beautiful. Because what a beautiful story this is. And so I commend you as a younger sister. I look up to you as my older sister. And I commend you on your journey and I encourage you moving forward. One last thing I wanted to ask, well, two more last things. I'm shifting a bit. Did Chit Chat with Patty Pat came out of any of this? How did Chit Chat with Patty Pat came about? Somebody wants to know.
Chit chat with Patty Pat is it's interesting. It I have done television before, but I'd never done radio. And coming to St. Thomas, where my husband, I've always done team ministry with my husband, and always wanted to augment whatever he was doing. And someone mentioned to me that the radio station needs a children's show. So Auntie Patty Pat was really birthed as a children's program. But
Okay.
in being true to myself, I realized that children alone not going to cut it. So let's do it half and half. Let's do adults and let's do children. And it has evolved to what it is today.
Wow.
It has it's just a beautiful way of showcasing something that I truly believe in, and that's conversation and relationships and hearing people's story. And so it has morphed into Chit Chat with Auntie Patty Pat, which is now a more adult focused talk show.
It also build communities. I have heard so many stories and have been not only encouraged but educated on so many topics, right? Your audience is very vast, I feel, not just in the Caribbean, but there are people elsewhere who listen to Auntie Pat's show. It's a beautiful thing, lack of a better word, right? That bring community together, ideas, thoughts, and we learn and share from each other. Now, we have talked for my co-host tonight, Michael. I'm praying for you, my heart. I know you would have been here. What would be your advice to people who might have been going through some health challenges and finding their own path to healing? So that question, and then the last word, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to promote, whatever you want to tell the audience is yours. So again, what would be your advice to people who might be going through health challenges? And then you have the last word.
My advice to individuals who are going through health challenges is one, remove the shame that you probably have ascribed to yourself because of it. This is not something you went to the shop and bought, you didn't buy it on Amazon or Timo. This is your lot. And
Yes.
believe that there's a God who loves you more than you love yourself. And if He has allowed this, that beauty can come from it. Give yourself grace and time for healing. Give yourself whatever it needs for you to grow through it. And remember that it doesn't define you. It may change, it may alter how you thought you would be impacting the world, how you thought you would be living your life, but it does not stop it. It just redirects it, and you can live with, you can coexist, you can cohabit with this disorder, whatever it is, and find a new piece of you to give to the world that you would not have been able to had you not had to live with these limitations. My final word
Beautifully
to everyone is be deliberate about life. Get up every day and decide that you're going to live today. You're not going to pass through today. If you're passing through a room, if you hug somebody, smell them, ask them what they're wearing. Live life with all your senses, your nose, your ears, your eyes, your lips. Hug, touch. This is not what is natural for you. Do what is natural to you. Don't live life inhibited. Be bold and expressive in the way that your life counts. It may be just a smile, but smile boldly and enjoy every action of your life. Be deliberate, be intentional about whatever you do. You can find me on the internet at deliberate Patrice Williams-Gordon, and you'll find stuff about deliberate living. Listen to Chit Chat with Auntie Patty Pat on wgodradio.org. Wherever my face pops up, just identify with me and give me that energy.
Beautiful. Auntie Patty Pat, don't you have a book out that you want to promote?
Oh, yes, the book is Waiting for the Butterflies, and it is available on Amazon. It's a devotional, what is the devotional with a twist? It has a Caribbean flavor, and it also has journaling potentials. It's shared with a friend because everything I do is couched in friendship. And so that book is a joint product of my friendship with Gloria Barnes Gregory, and you can find that on Amazon. Or if you are in the St. Thomas area and you can link me, you probably can purchase it directly from me.
What was the name of the book again?
Waiting for the Butterflies.
Waiting for the Butterflies. I'm gonna put it on the Facebook page. The Butterflies, Antipathic, Patrice Gordon. Okay. All right, Sister Gordon. I know you don't like that name, but Patrice Williams-Gordon, Antipathic, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, for sharing your story, being vulnerable to the world, and inspiring. You are naturally inspiring, anyways. There are many who have been inspired by the work you do. Continue to trust God, continue to push, and to live your best life deliberately. All right?
Appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, cool, cool. Don't leave. We're bringing it back.